We're over in r slash ask Reddit with a post by Squeeples. Doctors slash nurses slash Redditors, what has been your most gory, disgusting, or worst medical experience? Mine would have to be when I volunteered as a nursing assistant at the local hospital. On the first day I was there, I was asked if I'd like to assist in bathing an elderly patient. I was told he was near comatose, riddled with cancer, and was on death's door. I agreed, but nothing could prepare me for the sight of him. His pallid skin was stretched over his bones, and his eyes were dull and staring. Most of his skin was purple, where the blood vessels had ruptured. Oh my. He couldn't even speak and screamed when myself and the other nurse had to roll him over. He was constantly injected with morphine because of the pain. 2 days later, he passed away. I decided the medical profession wasn't for me.
But wait! There's more! Hang on to your seat, baby! Cause this one's a screamer!
We move on to the actual story that we're here to read. Top comments by Bonsai Panda. OR nurse here. This is kind of a long one. I was taking a call one night and then woke up at 2 in the morning for a general surgery call. Pretty vague, but at the time I lived in a town that had large populations of young military guys and avid meth users, so late night emergencies were common. Got to the hospital where a few more details awaited me. Perirectal abscess. For the uninitiated, this means that somewhere in the immediate vicinity of the asshole, there was a pocket of pus that needed draining. Needless to say, our entire crew was less than thrilled. I went down to the emergency room to transport the patient, and the only thing the ER nurse said as she handed me the chart was, "Have fun with this one." Amongst healthcare professionals, vague statements like that are a bad sign. My patient was a 314-pound Native American woman who barely fit on the stretcher I was transporting her on. She was rolling frantically side to side and moaning in pain, pulling at her clothes and muttering Hail Marys. I could barely get her name out of her after a few minutes of questioning. So after I confirmed her identity and what we were working on, I figured it was best just to get her to the anesthesiologist so we could knock her out and get this circus started. She continued her theatrics the entire 10-minute ride to the OR, nearly falling off the surgical table as we were trying to put her under anesthetic. We see patients like this a lot, though chronic drug abusers who don't handle pain well and who have used so many drugs that even increased levels of pain medication don't touch simply because of high tolerance levels. It should be noted, tonight's surgical team was not exactly wet behind the ears. I've been working in healthcare for several years already, mostly psych and medical settings. I've watched an 88-year-old man tear a 1-inch diameter catheter balloon out of his penis while screaming, "You'll never make me talk." I've been attacked by an HIV-positive neo-Nazi. I've seen some shit. The other nurse had been in the OR as a trauma specialist for over 10 years. The anesthesiologist had done residency at a level 1 trauma center, or as we call them, the knife and gun clubs. The surgeon was an ex-army and averaged about 8 words and 2 facial expressions a week. None of us expected what was about to happen next. We got the lady off to sleep, put her in stirrups, and began washing off the rectal area. It was red and inflamed, and a little bit of pus was seeping through. It was all pretty standard. Her chart had noted that she had been injecting IV drugs through her perineum, so this was obviously an infection from dirty needles or bad drugs. But overall, it didn't seem to warrant her repeated cries of, "Oh, Jesus, kill me now." The surgeon steps up with the scalpel, sinks the tip in, and at the same exact moment, the patient had a muscle twitch in her diaphragm. And just like that, all hell broke loose. Unbeknownst to us, the infection had actually tunneled nearly a foot into her abdomen, creating a vast cavern full of pus, rotten tissue, and fecal matter that had seeped outside of her colon. This godforsaken mixture came rocketing out of that little incision like we were recreating the funeral scene from Jane Austen's Mafia. We all wear waterproof gowns, face masks, gloves, hats, the works, all of which were as helpful as rain boots against a fire hose. The bed was in the middle of the room, an easy 7 feet from the nearest wall, but by the time we were done, I was still finding bits of rotten flesh pasted against the back wall. As the surgeon continued to advance his blade, the torrent just continued. The patient kept seizing against the ventilator, not uncommon in surgery, and with every muscle contraction, she shot more of this brackish, gray brown fluid, did you mean to say blackish, out onto the floor until within minutes it was seeping into the other nurse's shoes. I was nearly 12 feet away, jaw dropped open within my surgical mask, watching the second nurse dry heaving and the surgeon standing on tiptoes to keep this stuff from soaking his socks any further. The smell hit them first. Oh God, I just threw open my mask. The other nurse was out. She tore off her mask and sprinted out of the room, shoulders still heaving. Ugh. Then it hit me, mouth still wide open, not able to believe the volume of fluids this woman's body contained. It was like getting a great big bite of the despair and apathy that permeated this woman's life. I couldn't fucking breathe. My lungs simply refused to pull any more of that stuff in. The anesthesiologist went down next. An ex-NCAA D1 tailback, his 6'2" frame shaking as he threw open the door to the OR suite in an attempt to get more air in, letting me glimpse the second nurse still throwing up in the sinks outside the door. Another geyser of pus splashed across the front of the surgeon. The YouTube clip of David at the dentist keeps playing in my head. Is this real life? In all operating rooms, everywhere in the world, regardless of socialized or privatized, secular or religious, big or small, there is one thing the same. Somewhere there is a bottle of peppermint concentrate. Everyone in the department knows where it is. Everyone knows what it is for, and everyone prays to their gods. They never have to use it. In times like this, we rub it on the inside of our mask to keep the outside smells at bay long enough to finish the procedure and shower off. I sprinted to our central supply, ripping open the drawer where this vial of ambrosia was kept, and was greeted by an empty fucking box. The bottle had been emptied and not replaced. Somewhere out there was a godless bastard who had used the last of the peppermint oil and not replaced a single fucking drop of it. To this day, if I figure out who it was, I'll kill them with my bare hands. But not before cramming their head up the colon of every last meth user I can find, just so we're even. I darted back into the room with the next best thing I can find. A vial of Mastisol, which is an adhesive rub we use sometimes for bandaging. It's not as good as peppermint, But considering that the over 1/3 of the floor was now thoroughly coated in what could easily be mistaken for a combination of bovine afterbirth and maple syrup, we were out of options. I started rubbing as much as the mastisol as I could get on the inside of my mask, just to be smelling anything except whatever slimy demon spawn we just cut out of this woman. The anesthesiologist grabbed the vial next, dousing the front of his mask in it so he could stand next to his machine long enough to make sure this woman didn't die on the table. It wasn't until later that we realized that Mastisol can give you a mild high from huffing it like this. But in retrospect, that's probably what got us through. By this time, the smell had permeated out of our OR suites and down the 40-foot hallway to the front desk, where the other nurse still sat, eyes bloodshot and watery, clenching her stomach desperately. Our suite looked like the underground river of ooze from Ghostbusters 2, except dirty. Oh, so dirty. I stepped back into the OR suite, not wanting to leave the surgeon by himself in case he genuinely needed help. It was like one of those overly artistic representations of a zombie apocalypse you see on fan forums. Here's this one guy in blue surgical garb standing nearly ankle deep in lumps of dead tissue, fecal matter, and several liters of syrupy infection. He was performing surgery in the swamps of Dagobah. Except the swamps had just come out of this woman's ass, and there was no Yoda. He and I didn't say a word for the next 10 minutes, and he scraped the insides of the abscess until all the dead tissue was out. The front of his gown was a gruesome mixture of brown and red. His eyes squinted against the stinging vapors originating directly in front of him. I finished my required paperwork as quickly as I could, helped him stuff the recently vacated opening full of gauze, taped this woman's butt cheeks closed to hold the dressing for as long as possible, woke her up, and immediately shipped her off to the recovery ward. Until then, I'd only heard of alcohol showers. Turns out 70% isopropyl alcohol is about the only thing that can even touch a scent like that once it's soaked into your skin. It'd take 4 or 5 bottles to get really clean, but it's worth it. It's probably the only scenario I can honestly endorse drinking a liter of it too. As we left the locker room, the surgeon and I looked at each other, and he said the only negative sentence I heard him utter in 2.5 years of working together. That was bad. The next morning, the entire department, a fairly large floor within the hospital, still smelled. The housekeepers told me later that it took them nearly an hour to suction up all the fluid and debris left behind. The OR suite itself was closed off and quarantined for 2 more days just to let the smell finally clear out. I laugh now when I hear new recruits to healthcare talk about the worst thing they've seen. You ain't seen shit, kid. Too long, didn't read, maybe you fast forwarded. Don't shoot IV drugs into your taint. I didn't read this story in advance. I got shivers. I got actual shivers. I itch. I itch. Ooh, I itch. I've had hair bumps before. I'm an African American man with very, very hairy. I have hair everywhere. I got hair on the knuckles of my toes. So I know what it's like to have a hair bump, right? Right, a little bit of pus, a little bit of blood. I could not imagine one of those leading to a dark hole, a space into the depths of my body that is full of rotting tissue and shit. We'll remember this story is in the comment section of a person asking about the worst shit that they've seen in the medical field. We'll read some replies to this particular comment, but we're gonna move on quickly away from this. I don't know what I did this theme. It was supposed to be entitled Narcissistic Nasty People, not nasty shit. Oh, I'm glad I'm getting sleepy. Only diabetics should be shooting themselves up with anything. If you take peptides, you're a fucking loser. Go eat some chicken breast, you bitch. By Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ? Cejus Christ. Cejus Christ. Why did you spell your username like this? Bovine afterbirth and maple syrup. Been an EMT for 2 years now and had my fair share of what the fuck is this fluid cause. And that was by far one of the best descriptions I have ever read. That being said, I also gagged. You and me both. You and me both. Bonsai Panda replies to Jesus Christ. EMTs, the Knights of New IRL. Every last one of you bastards has the patience of a saint and the stomach of a whore. You have my gratitude for it. I hope I never need you, but if I do, you're all getting Taco Bell afterwards. If their stomachs are weak, they will shit themselves. Why won't you get them Taco Bell? Panda. Bonsai Panda. Bonsai! Bonsai Panda. Fuck around. Tell another nasty story like that. I'm planting bamboo in your backyard. And I know you own your house. I'm planting bamboo in your front yard too. You gonna have to box your neighbors because they gonna try to beat the dog shit out of you. They're gonna consider it your fault, and it's technically your fault for sharing this story.